welcome back to another episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm your host Avik, and today's conversation is one that reaches right into the heart of what this show is all about. Because life isn't just about health or struggle, joy or pain, but it's all about how we hold both at once. Like, it's all about how we find that meaning even in our hardest seasons, and also how we turn those challenges into fuel for living more fully. So, uh, that's the best part of it. And dear listeners, today's guest lives that truth every single day. Yeah, trust me. So please welcome Thom Barrett. Welcome to the show, Thom.
Hey, thanks for having me, Avik. Um,
Thank
Funny or not, I feel at home already. Because like you, I'm not here to talk about survival, and I'm glad the way that you prep that. Right,
Mm.
I'm here to talk about what it means to live. When everything says, no, you shouldn't.
Yeah,
My
very true.
Yeah, my path
Mm-hmm.
has included cancer, and I'm a stage 4 prostate cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the tumors are metastasized, so I'm kind of down the down the path, so to speak, of dealing with the terminal part to it. And
Yeah.
like everybody else, I've had my fair share of trauma, and maybe more so than others, uh, more than one brush with the edge. But I've learned that healing isn't about fixing what's broken. It's
Mm.
about learning to live whole, even even with the cracks.
Mm.
Um, I'm a writer, traveler, and like you said, I
Mm.
try to live every day um, to this to its fullest, and that's not always easy, right? And I realized early on that I had to let go of what I can't control and lean into what I can, which is pretty simple: presence,
Exactly.
connection, and meaning. So,
Mm.
for anyone out there who feels like they're living on the edge, I just want to
Mhm.
say that edge might be the beginning of something sacred, not the end. So, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining. It's really an honor to have you here. And also, like as you have already mentioned, but still, I'd love to mention to all the listeners, uh, dear listeners, Tom is an adventurer, cancer survivor, as he has already mentioned, storyteller, author, and a former PwC partner who now spends his days writing, exploring, and inspiring others to face the life with courage and the grace. Yeah. So, also, I'd love to mention, like, throughout his 5 books, Living While Dying, Chasing My Northern Lights, Embracing the Cold, and Beyond the Blueprint and the Strength of Surrender, he shares not only his personal story, but you can say the universal lessons in resilience, purpose, and choosing joy even when the life gets hard. So, dear listeners, this conversation will gonna be a lot of learnings, knowledge sharing, and there are a lot of things to take away as well. Definitely. So, if you are ready for a conversation that is full of adventure, surrender, and uh, embracing life's wildest seasons, then this episode is for you. So, let's get started. Welcome to the show again, Tom.
Thank you, sir. I
Amazing.
just one comment. You mentioned something, and I always like to
Hmm.
make a point of it. You mentioned choosing joy.
Yeah.
Life is funny. There
Mm.
are some emotions that we really don't control. That they're more reactionary, right? Happiness. That's a reactionary feeling because
Mm.
you've accomplished something, someone's acknowledged that, and the result is, oh, you feel happy because someone acknowledged it, right? If they hadn't, then maybe the happiness won't be there. Anger is a feeling that is reactionary. Someone does you wrong. This is what you feel like. Grief is another example.
Mm.
There's a whole host of examples of feelings that are reactionary. Joy, on the other hand,
Mm.
is something you have to choose to feel because it's joy doesn't automatically happen. I mean, you win something or you do something good, you feel happiness. If you feel joy, that's maybe because you've taken it a different direction in terms of what was told, how you heard it, and what you made of it. And that's an important lesson because I find myself when I do have grief, when and I am angry,
Mhm.
uh, I try to get out of that emotion by choosing joy. And there's always ways to find joy, right? You
Mm.
stub your toe, that hurts, but you can find joy and say, "Oh, good. Now I know where not to stop." Right? I can fix that, and I can,
Exactly.
not worry about it. But anyhow, you use that word joy, and that means a lot to me. So I just thought I'd jump in and
Thank you.
comment.
Thank you. Thank you so much for mentioning this. And yeah, definitely, you mentioned it correctly. I mean, you have to feel that. So, um, yeah, exactly. So, um, here, I'd love to ask you, like, uh, I mean, you have faced the incredible challenges. Sorry for using this incredible word, but I thought like it will be better to mention this way. So, um, but you don't call yourself a victim. You call yourself an adventurer. So, what does this adventure mean to you now, especially while, uh, I mean, navigating stage 4 cancer?
Well, it's a great question, and I have to admit, even
Mhm.
before stage 4, I
Mm.
was an adventurer. Um,
Okay.
but I have to put it in the right context because someone thinks of adventurer, they think of someone climbing Mount Everest or, you know, sailing down to the Antarctic or, something
Mhm.
that is cool and adventuresome. Um,
Mm.
I started being an adventure and give me some liberties
Mm.
here. When I graduated from college
Mm.
back in 1978, my degree was in
Mhm.
computer science and accounting. Now,
Okay.
most of the people I suspect that's listening to this,
Mm.
1978 sounds like, well, it was a different century.
Mm.
A long time ago. But what you may not appreciate is that during the 70s and 80s, technology is nothing like we see today, right?
Yeah.
Nothing. It wasn't embedded to anything that we did. It wasn't even embedded in the accounting systems. Right? They were still being done manually. And you're right. I did work for a firm, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and
Mm.
I went to them with this dual degree with the mindset
Mm.
technology and business, it's the Wild West. We have an opportunity here to bring these two together and really maximize stuff. So for
Mm.
me, adventure's always been a part of what I do. And I take whatever I do and turn it into an adventure. Right. So
Mm.
business for me was an adventure. How can I help my clients? How can I pursue technology differently? How can I learn more about? So everything for me
Mm.
was a learning process. And I found adventure in doing that. And so, fast forward, um,
Mhm.
I wanted to retire when I was 55.
Mm.
I didn't care what I was doing, how successful I was. It didn't matter to me in terms of how many projects I wasn't gonna finish. But at 55, I was going to retire. And the reason for that was that
Mhm.
I didn't wanna retire to slow down. Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to retire to make another side of myself, to find a different thing, creativity, whatever. I wanted to find another adventure, right?
Mm.
And that's when I started doing, what my friends would call just crazy shit.
Mm.
Excuse my language. I'm sorry. Crazy stuff. And, and I did. I didn't climb Everest, but I ski mountaineered, the Alps, the Two Gas Mountains in Alaska. Yeah, I did a lot of crazy stuff. But when I was diagnosed with cancer in 2016,
Mm.
at first it was just stage 2, right? And I thought, I got this under control, right? I'm going to be able to do whatever I have to do to make certain the doctors are happy, I'm happy, and I can move on. But I
Mhm.
just like I approached my work, I wanted to approach this as an adventure too. I
Yeah.
didn't want it to control me, right? I knew I couldn't control it, but I didn't want it to control me. So I had to find different ways in which I could coexist, if I can use that, with this illness because I knew it wasn't going to go away. And then in 2023, when I was determined to be terminal. I said, okay, well, I'm glad I already had the mindset,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to continue doing what I do. And but the difference when I found out in 23
Mhm. Mhm.
was I wanted to start recording it and providing perspectives to others. So and now I was on two different adventures. I was on the adventure of just living life, trying to,
Mhm.
grab as much as I could. But I also went on this adventure of writing, which that's the Wild West too nowadays, right? So,
Yeah.
adventure to me is more than just hiking a trail. It's more than reaching a summit. It's how I
Mhm.
approach life in general. I always have, always will. And but I think that's an important point because as you do that, like you
Mhm.
said, I view myself as an adventurer, not a cancer patient,
Mhm.
right? And just like I don't, view myself as uh, a 6'5" guy, right? I am that, but I don't walk around and say, "Oh yeah, I'm a big guy." I walk around saying I'm an adventurer because that's what I really am.
Mm. Wow. Amazing. And like I mean, it's really, really powerful, I have to say, because adventure is not always about the geography, but about the mindset and the presence as well. So, um, yeah, definitely. So,
Well, if I can just add one more thing to it,
yeah,
I think
no,
I'm
please,
sorry
please.
for interrupting. Um, but most people associate adventure with their bucket list, right?
Yeah, exactly true.
I check it off. I'm on to
Uh-huh.
my next one. I check it off.
Uh-huh.
I go to the next one. And for me, um,
Mm,
it's been more about testing myself,
mm,
both in terms of what I physically could do. That's what I did when I was younger. But
mhm,
now it's about testing my internals, right? And testing my fortitude and testing my ability to deal with adversity, right? Testing myself in terms of how do I handle uncertainty, right?
mm,
How do I, and all that. And so
mm,
there's different nuances. And
mm,
I thought it was important to share that nuance in terms of, it's not always about, doing something extra unusual.
mm.
It's sometimes very simple and it's about yourself.
True, true, exactly. Ah, and wow. And like also, I love to ask this. I mean, you have written so beautifully about living while dying. Um, I mean, a phrase that actually holds deep truth for so many people. So, what have you learned about the life's fragility and uh, its beauty also? I mean, through this ongoing journey with cancer.
Well, for me, I try to
Mhm.
break things down because I may not be the smartest guy into very simple terms. And so for me, living while dying is pretty much a statement that says, hey,
Mm,
something is growing inside of me.
mm,
Something is having an impact
mhm,
and it is controlling
mm.
my internals, from a
Understood.
physical perspective.
Mm,
But I'm not going to sit in the couch, turn
mhm,
the TV on, and just wait until it has its end game of dying, right?
mm, mm,
I want I'm not that guy, never have been, and I hope
mm.
that the people who are listening realize that you always have a choice, right? You have a choice to sit in that couch, or you have a choice to go off and live. I mean, and I say if you're sitting on the couch, you're just existing.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm not going to be critical of that. That's
Mhm.
your choice. That's your choice. But wouldn't it be better if you chose to live, right?
Mm,
And to find enjoyment, and you
mm,
always can. I'm sitting in a place in the states that is. I'm out in the woods. I live in uh, a pretty. I live in a very. I live in Cape Cod. Man, I live in Cape Cod, which is a tourist area. But I happen to have a parcel of land that is just covered in woods, trees,
mhm,
etc. And when I have a bad day, all I have to do is sit outside for a few moments and
yeah.
engage with nature.
Mm,
And I can see what's happening. I can see others. I can see animals that are having a hard time. right?
Mm.
And how Mother Nature takes care of them. Or if they're too far gone, says, sorry, that's life,
Yeah.
and boom, right? And that's a hard
Mm.
thing to see and watch, but that's life. And so, yeah, we all die, but I want to make darn certain that until that very point, I'm living as best as I can. So it's pretty simple, and it might be different for people in terms of, yeah, living, I'm just going to spend more time outdoors. I'm going to spend more time with my friends. I'm going to spend more time with my family. That's living. That's a conscious choice. That's a good choice.
Mm. True. Exactly. Ah, wow. And nature has a way of reminding us how small we are, but also how deeply connected we are to something bigger than ourselves. I have to say, yeah. But
Absolutely.
yeah. Oh, lovely. And for the listener who right now who feels overwhelmed by their own challenges, so what's the one mindset shift, or maybe you can say a small practice they can adopt today to start seeing their struggles through a different lens?
Well, it's funny.
Okay.
I suffer from clinical depression, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm a left brain guy.
Okay.
So I have to figure the answers out. I have to have a game plan. I have to have some structure, and I need to think through because I'm the kind of guy that wants to find the solution.
Hmm.
But not all problems have solutions.
Yep.
And so my therapist said to me, Tom, I mean, you can come and talk to me all you want. And I've been glad to take your money. He goes, but, you might find some solace in writing a journal.
Hmm.
And I go, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's not me. I don't write. I don't write. I act. I do. I'm a
Hmm.
partaker. I'm not a sit back and let's contemplate stuff, right? But he goes, no, 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 just do me a favor for 1 month, every morning, write something down. And I said, okay, I'm paying you for advice, so I've got to listen to it before I say no. Um, and I did. And of course, my first entries were today was a good day. And the next day, today was a bad day. There was no
Hmm.
depth to it. There was nothing to it. But as I got into the habit of writing every morning,
Yeah.
those sentences became longer.
Hmm.
And then those sentences became more thoughtful.
True.
And then I started getting into, well, I can write all this negative stuff,
Mhm.
which is good because I'm getting it out of my system and
Mhm.
flushing it to someplace else. And a piece of paper is a great because I either can burn it, put it on a shelf, and I no longer have
Mhm.
to deal with it. But the
Mhm.
other thing that I found to be really helpful was that I started to write every morning when I woke up what I was grateful for. Right. And
Mhm.
when you start your day off
Mhm.
in a positive mindset, that changes things considerably. So,
Exactly.
you asked, well, what small thing did I do?
Yes.
It was journaling, and then letting it take root. And now I like journal, and I write about what I'm gratitude, what today's intentions are, right? What happened yesterday? What do I feel? And believe it or not, the books that I've
Mhm.
written have been really my journals. Fast forward, and made in prose and narrative. Um, and so I've got a double whammy out of it in terms of it was helping me in the moment, and it's helping me again. But that was a small thing. Right? And now it's grown to if I don't write, I don't feel good, right? I feel something's missing. I need to create that energy. I need to create that mindset of today's going to be a good day because, you know, it's a beautiful day out, sunny out. I'm grateful for that, right? I'm grateful for the fact that, you know, I'm allowed to, to get up and stand up and be erect. Right, that's something to be happy for. A lot of people can't. A lot of people are stuck,
Mhm.
they can't get out of bed. I'm grateful. So, it's not like you have to be grateful of great things,
Yeah.
be grateful of small things, because when you add up all the small shit, it makes a big difference.
Yep. True. Wow. That's a beautiful reminder, and that sometimes the greatest act of love is simply to be there, to hold space, and to witness someone's journey without trying to fix it. So
Yep.
that's very true. Yeah. So toy.
maybe I just you just yes, I don't know, I'm sorry to interrupt again,
Yeah.
but you hit upon something I think is
Mm,
really important
mm,
because you talked about sharing, I think. And
mm, mm.
I'm one of these guys, I'll say it, I'm a macho kind of guy, right? You know,
Yeah.
I can do everything, I can do anything. I'm a protector, I'm a provider, and the negative side to that is I don't share stuff with anybody, right? I don't want to complain to anyone
Mm,
because I think that makes me look weak, and I don't want to be weak. Well, one of the epiphanies I had during this journey is that well, you got your definition of macho is wrong, Tom. I mean, there is strength in asking for help because by showing vulnerability to someone, that takes strength. When
mm,
that person sees that you're offering to be vulnerable with them, they're more willing to engage with you. And all of a
mm.
sudden, I found that my connections with family and friends
Yeah.
grew deeper than they were before. And I,
Mm,
I was like, whoa, that's the last thing that I would have expected to see. I would have
mm,
expected them to say, oh, Barrett, you've gone weak, right? What happened? Nope, the opposite. They're more engaged. Now I gave them permission to talk about themselves, which guys don't do, right? Guys don't talk about themselves. They don't talk about their problems. They always keep it inside. So I found that in this journey that asking for help required me to be vulnerable. And I realized that being vulnerable is not a weakness. It's actually a strength because you feel confident in yourself, but you can stand up and be naked in front of a group of people and not feel
mm.
embarrassed. That's a big deal.
True. Wow. And Tom, I mean, dear listeners, Tom's life is a living example, I would say, that challenge and joy are not the opposites. So they can and often do coexist. So that even in the face of mortality, and we can find wonder, purpose, peace, everything. So, and that every one of us has the power to turn our pain into something very, very meaningful for ourselves and for others. Yeah. So, dear listeners, if you're listening right now and feeling overwhelmed by your own season of hardship, then take Tom's wisdom to the heart, which is you are still allowed to seek joy, you are still allowed to dream, and you are never defined by your diagnosis or maybe your circumstances. Yeah. So, Tom, if someone wants to connect with you, what would be the best medium to connect?
Well, I have a website.
Uh-huh.
It's called Living Life While Dying. And on it, you'll find a lot of my articles. I do a
Mhm.
lot of writing that doesn't show up in my books. I also write and appear on Substack. But the best way is just to send me an email. I, so my email is 123.thom.barrett@gmail.com. I'd like
Wow.
to engage with people. I'd like to talk about, what's
Mm.
happening in their life, what's happening in my life, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I just want to come back to one thing you
Mm.
said because it's
Sure.
very important to me. You mentioned the word purpose,
Purpose. Yeah.
right? And some people fear that when they get diagnosed,
Mm.
they believe that everything that was important to them, that defined them, is going to be stripped away, and
Mm.
they ask, "Well, what's left then? Because I'm not me anymore,
Yeah.
right?"
Mm.
And I well, for me, purpose is critical because
Mhm.
if I don't have purpose, I really don't have a reason to get out of bed, right?
True.
And so, and for me, purpose isn't about beating the odds because there's no way that I'm going to beat cancer, right? Uh, but purpose to me is how can I give back?
Mm.
So to me, volunteering is very important. What
Mm.
I'm doing right now with you, my way of giving back by sharing my story is a way of giving back, right?
Yeah.
So that gives me purpose. So I do get up and I say, okay, what life can I change today? Or what I don't mean in terms of changing in a, but
Mm,
who can who can I engage today that their life may have a little bit of a different trajectory, right? That there
mm.
might be an inflection that causes them to rethink something. It's interesting. I'm sorry for talking so much.
No issue. Yeah.
I'll be quiet. Sorry. Then, but you mentioned the word purpose, and I found that of interest, and it's very important to me.
No,
Living with
that's
purpose,
definitely true.
living with intention, right? Living with intention is if there was two things you asked me, Tom, what do you live by? I live with purpose and live with intention.
Mm, that's lovely. That's amazing. Great. So, dear listeners, I'll put all the links into the show notes for your easy reference. And with this hope, until next time, this is your host Avik signing out from Healthy Man, Healthy Life. Stay curious, stay courageous, and keep embracing the wild, beautiful adventure of being alive. So, thank you so much.